everyone, and welcome to the November 16th, 2021 work session of the Penfield Planning Board. We'll begin the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. I guess happy birthday wishes for Sarah out there in the web world are in order today. Lori, please call the roll.
Hetzke.
Hetzke here.
Bastian.
Bastian here.
Burton.
Burton here.
Knauer.
Knauer here.
Tidings.
Tidings here.
Sangster.
Sangster here.
Weissar.
Weissar here.
O'Connor.
O'Connor here.
Dubrek.
Dubrek here.
Gray here.
Okay, we have minutes from October 14th and October 28th. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them. I will say I watched the meeting that I missed the last time. And I am fully prepared. So, do we want to go with the October 14th minutes first? Somebody want to move?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
So we have motion by Burton, second by Bastian.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian.
Bastian, aye.
Burton.
Burton, aye.
Knauer.
Knauer, aye.
Tidings.
Tidings, aye.
Okay, October 28th. Somebody want to move?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Knauer and Bastian.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian.
Bastian, aye.
Burton.
Burton, aye.
Knauer.
Knauer, aye.
Tidings.
Tidings, aye.
Okay. Doug, you want to start going through our agenda items, tabled applications and so forth?
Yeah, so we'll start with our first tabled application. That is the Pathstone project at 1801 Penfield Road. So we have received, a revised site plan. Received a revised site plan that made some changes that were requested both through staff and the PRC as well as the board. The most substantial changes that I think the board would notice is that they are proposing an additional retail building right off of the pedestrian spine on the north side of the property. They have made a few changes regarding the layout of the fire access road to meet fire code. And they provided some updated architectural renderings for the board's consideration. In addition, they do have physical material samples of those architectural materials available if you guys would like to see them. They are also available in the audience for any questions.
Okay. So when it says area for potential 40, is that 46 or 4,800 square feet building, I thought there was talk about moving, or not necessarily moving, but the building that they had a ready to sign tenant for. I thought we were talking about that going over there, and that doesn't seem to be. Is this official or is this an unofficial building?
It is, I believe they'd say it was an unofficial building, so at this time they're looking to keep the tenant that they have proposed for the building in the northeast corner would like to be along that 250 corridor. So they're intending to keep the building up there. Through a reconfiguration of the parking and open space on the north side of the property, they were able to make space for another building that could potentially front onto. The pedestrian spine would have parking access through the lot back there, but could front or be more accessible to the pedestrian spine that runs north-south through this property and the property to the south of this.
That potential building.
That potential building, yeah.
Right. So, um, I guess one thing that I'm struggling to get my head around is, while I think that they've done a nice job on the architecture and the design of the buildings for what they are, there's a lot of them, of things that I like a lot about it. It's still, I'm still struggling to see how this has that mixed-use villagey feel that we really want to make sure that we get here. And this application, the others that are before us are critical for the entire district, that we, if we're going to end up with that, we need to really focus on that now. And I know I'm one of 5 members, so I do want to hear what everybody else thinks about this. But I'm struggling to say that I'm there yet on this. And that that commercial building along the pedestrian spine helps move in that direction. But when I'm trying to envision when this is built out, what kind of environment is it going to create? What kind of community is it going to create? And is it going to be this desirable, that pedestrian spine, is it going to be just this walkway, path to nowhere? Or is it going to be a vibrant, busy, lively place? So I'd kind of like to open it up to discussion with the rest of the board, if possible.
Yeah, I'd like to hear some more of their ideas for, the residential courtyard area in both buildings. I mean, so like, does that meet the criteria for green space in there? I mean, can they utilize it, the people that are residing there, to use this area?
In the original submission that they had provided, not this newest rendition of the site plan, but as part of the original application package, they did include more specific detailed plans of each of those courtyard areas as part of that. Can you pull those up?
And that's gonna meet the town requirements for the open space in between those buildings as it stands right now?
So they do provide a mixture of passive recreational uses. They were proposing, sort of a mix of seating areas, lounge areas, outdoor cooking, as well as some sports courts, whether they're, cornhole or, bocce courts or something like that. I think it is labeled cornhole, on the one side, and on the other side had a playground for children that was separate from the playground for the daycare facility, as well as a passive recreation gazebo. The playground in that area. So it does offer, it leans towards recreation or recreational uses, which we have largely included in our open space, or considered as part of our open space in previous applications. And they are showing a variety of uses that aren't just, open grass area.
Yeah, I think I think we may have brought this up before. I think it would be helpful if we could see for 3 locations, the 2 courtyards, and then the pedestrian spine, some kind of street view, what that's going to look like as this is, developed. And I think that would give us a better idea, visually what it's going to look like. At least 3 perspectives, the 2 courtyards, and then from the south looking north, as you look into that area.
So you're saying looking north into each courtyard? Say
Into each
from that-
courtyard, and then also on that pedestrian area, maybe starting at the parking lot, what that visual would look like.
From north to south or south to north?
Well, for that, it'd be interesting to see
Both.
both. I think for some of the other mixed use, it's,
Yeah.
we've seen that, before, and I think it would be helpful.
Yeah. Bill?
I agree with Bob that the pedestrian spine, I don't want it to be a walkway with hard and fast borders on each side. That it's something that should integrate to the buildings and the parks around it, to give it that village feel, specifically the buildings to the west. You don't want to walk by a building and not have it opened to that spine.
Right.
To me, that's critical. If you want a village feel, that's something that has to happen. So what Bob said, getting a street view is the only way we know what that's going to look like. So is it going to be concrete or stone and then grass and then a building? Which to me doesn't give you the feel we're looking for. That's where I am on this.
Jim, comments?
Yeah, so we actually touched on this with the applicant's engineer when they first started presenting concepts for this project. And the project itself was kind of in flux. It was still evolving. And we talked about getting some renderings. One thing that I would like to add to what Bob and Bill said is, we see an awful lot of architectural renderings that show trees like they might be 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So, I think it would be nice to see a more realistic rendering of, the landscaping materials, how they might look in, say, 3 to 5 years. But, it seems to me that they're now at that point where they can start to prepare these kinds of renderings. The project is more or less fixed. They've addressed the comments from the staff and the board, and I think we're probably at that point now where they can give us and the community some visual representation of what they might expect to see if this were to be built out.
So am I and it's okay if the answer is yes, am I the only one that has a disconnect with my concept of this villagey, downtowny type, street of shops type feel for this area? So I'm struggling with that, and I personally, I don't want the district to be this sea of apartment buildings, is my biggest concern. And that was a concern that we had, and I don't want to bring up an application, another application, but the same kind of thing.
Right.
Right, but if they meet the density and the ratio for mixed use, now it becomes a matter of how well are they able to adapt what the land is giving them. And we started out by focusing, on that main entryway and, the face of the buildings away from Route 250. So, as we're kind of directing this team to meet the mixed-use development manual and the concerns that we had for a number of these other things, I think it's entirely possible that you can get something that has that kind of community feel, that Main Street feel that the mixed-use development manual talks about. I think
So I
it's
guess-
possible that they can do that with what they have here, yeah.
So the question, how will that be accomplished, would be my question then.
And the only way that we can get an answer to that in a workshop is to send that message to the design team and ask them to come back with something that the board and the community can review.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the plan view here, that, I don't know if it's building number 2 or that the western building and the eastern elevation of that fronts the pedestrian spine. Just like you were saying, Bill, that's kind of a most likely piece to incorporate in that fashion.
Yeah, to me, the pedestrian spine and the buildings and the dog park, they all need to blend together. I used to travel out to Fort Collins, Colorado, old city, they call it, I think, and they closed off a street, and they did a similar, what you see here, except it was mostly with businesses. And you couldn't really tell where the street started or stopped and where it was for pedestrian access. It was beautiful, to be quite honest. So something to that effect. I think it was called Old Town Fort Collins. And it was really, really nice. And I'm going back 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of feel I would look for here. So you got the pedestrian spine, and instead of grass, maybe it's, stone surface going up to a building with an access into it, commercial. That's what I foresee here.
Right.
Something to that
Yeah,
effect.
you gotta be careful that they maintain an exterior accessible route to the buildings. They can't just have gravel and,
Well, I'm not talking,
Things like
that was
that.
like cobblestone, road, the cobblestone, everything else. It was,
yeah, it has to be maneuverable, so.
yeah. But it
Well,
was,
I think you're talking about two different things. I think, Bill, you're talking about the pedestrian spine
Right.
area.
right.
And Jim, you're talking about fire access around the perimeter.
No, not fire access. Access for the residents, access for the community. So he mentioned tying to the buildings, that's why I said that,
Yeah,
because
it was,
the route to the buildings,
Yeah.
the accessible route has to meet certain criteria for maneuverability. It can't just be loose gravel and
no,
things
no,
like
Oh,
that.
right.
So,
But-
right.
yeah, just-
So in a previous submission, the applicant had submitted some revised architectural drawings. Specifically, what Catherine bring up on the screen is the east elevation of Building 2. So it's that building closest to the spine there. And one of the architectural changes that they had made was to add canopies and revise the facade there on the first floor to give it a more pedestrian scale exterior as it fronts to the pedestrian spine. It sounds like the board is looking to,
But see, okay, are those potentially storefronts? Are they You know,
believe
is there
they
a
would,
little ice cream shop in there and
I think they'd still be
cafe and
residences.
a barber shop and you know, that type of thing in there? Or
I-
is that apartments?
They're still apartments. Their intent was to give it a more commercial look, even though they are still apartments, so that it provides a sense of scale for anybody walking down, that there are those canopies that come off of the building on the first level. That does give it sort of the storefront look without them actually being storefronts. That has been the discussion point I know the board has had, is potentially adding, or has requested was doing commercial along the pedestrian spine there. Right. If that's a thing the board.
So, you know, I know that they're anxious to have feedback and move forward and with their planning and so on. And, you know, what is gonna convince somebody, the average person, that might pull into the YMCA parking lot, maybe they're going to the Y or whatever, and then they want to take a walk afterwards, why would they walk north on this pedestrian spine? And, you know, these are the things that I think we need to make sure that we're doing the best job that we can to make it so that, yeah, I don't want to get in my car, go back on Route 250 and head north a half a mile, and then turn left to go back into the development to the north of this down the road. We want people to walk there. And what's going to make it pleasant for them to do that? If they're just walking past inaccessible structures, you know, there's nothing to draw them there along the way. It's just a, you know, pedestrian highway, I guess, to get to, from the south all the way to the north. Am I the,
No, I
am I off
agree.
base here?
I think there should be more commercial along the pedestrian spine, maybe a cafe, ice cream store, coffee shop, where it would draw them, they would want to go there, it would attract them there. If it's just apartments and there's no access, and yeah, okay, it looks kind of commercial, but why would I go there? You know, I don't think that's the feel, well, it's not the feel I'm looking for. Something that would say, hey, I want to go up there, I want to grab a sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, I just, this is a little bit of a tangent, but last weekend I went to that, you know, in Fairport, there's all those new restaurants in that old canning factory. I mean, that place used to be a rundown, you know, who would go there? It was packed. I mean, it's just like restaurant after restaurant. So obviously, it can work. How do we get it to work? So I guess those are some of the answers that I'm looking for. For me, and
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that, that's the area that really makes sense to have the commercial businesses is right along. You know, that's ideally, even if it was like maybe reconfiguring some of these, you know, other spaces, like swapping the dog park with that other outbuilding or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, with the.
With the other,
The
Potential 4,800
potential,
square foot.
the potential 48.
yeah, yeah. Or the handball court, I don't know.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the one thing I like about that potential 48, I don't know why I'm calling it that, but, is that creates sort of a streetscape all along the way, or it
True.
helps.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a different idea, I'm totally, the one thing I like about this board is that everybody has their own opinion, so I want to hear them. You don't have to just agree or, like to know people's thoughts. So that's one thing. What are some of the other things that, I mean, I'm still struggling to get past that, so I know I'm kind of caught up on that.
Architectural rendering?
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
I just want to say, in our notes, the town staff shared with us that they have not yet had an opportunity to fully review the
We're
most recent
s-
submittals,
yeah,
so.
we're still collecting
It would be
comments and
inappropriate for us to try to, close the loop on this when they haven't done it yet, and we don't have their notes.
Yeah. And I guess one thing that I'd like to follow up on the potential 4,800 square foot. I thought that was more of a definite thing. I'd like to know what the intent is with that. My understanding, that was more real than the dotted line when we talked about that. And if I'm wrong, then I'd like to be reminded that I'm wrong.
Okay, that's something we can certainly ask. I think my understanding is that they were looking to get the comfortability of the board with the idea of the building there, and if the board was comfortable with that it could be something they keep on the plan going forward, but if it was something the board was not supportive of, it would be something they could revert back or modify.
Okay, so then I want to informally pull the board on that. Do you guys like the idea that that building there on the north central section as a commercial building right along the pedestrian spine? You'd have parking just to the east of it and probably some to the west. That drive in, the east-west drive to the north side of the two main buildings becomes kind of a street with on-street parking. So that could be like a cross street.
Well, I think we have to know what kind of a building is it going to be. Is it going to be a two-story restaurant with balconies and a patio? Is it going to be a clothing store? What's it going to be? I
Yeah, I
have
think it's
no
probably
idea.
premature for them to
Right.
determine that.
But if it's along the pedestrian spine and it's something, like I've said before, would attract people to it, that's a good thing. I like it. It breaks up the parking lots. Is it one or two stories? I think those are questions we have to have answers to.
Okay? Terry?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been doing from the onset. I mean, to me, that's nothing new. We've been trying to, get people to make commitment to commercial property in this new district, so, so we can just put it back to them and see what they have to offer, but in the past, it's been tough for them to do. I'm aware of that, but yeah, if they can come up with some plans to give us an idea what their intentions are, it definitely would be real helpful. Hopefully they can come up with some. We haven't had a lot of luck with that up to this
Right.
point, but.
Yeah, and I think too, I guess to your point, AJ, being more north on that project, that would continue that pedestrian corridor. And architecturally, on the facade that's facing that corridor, you know, I would think you could do some nice things so it would kind of tie in with the look of the other building.
Right, of the eastern elevation
Right.
of the,
So there, you know,
South building.
architecturally, there could be some elements that would make it all, you know, kind of coherent, that it was all kind of the same thing.
Jim, comments?
Well, it definitely would be premature for them to make a commitment on what kind of tenants they're going to get.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we're going to struggle with this in every mixed-use development that we face, you know, particularly in the market,
Understood.
the times that we're in. But in terms of how that contributes to that whole, getting some renderings, so we've got some, you know, visual, some illustrations that, you know, we can look at and the community can look at, you know, this can play an important role in that, because it breaks up, like you said, just pavement or grass or,
Right,
you know, the composition of the pedestrian spine itself. So, you know, it's an opportunity to create some shadow lines and, you know, something else of visual interest so that there is something down there. I don't think necessarily that we, you know, fault the site because there isn't anything to the north. I mean, there wasn't anything to the north of the first
correct.
project.
Understood.
And this whole part of the
But
mixed-use
the first one,
community.
we did have, you know, we did that bridge and that archway that was supposed to be kind of a gateway to the
On the
rest
other
of the
end.
district.
But, you know, I think it's important that we remember that this entire block of land was always intended to lead to the north, and that the pedestrian spines and the main street would continue that
Right.
pathway.
Yep,
So, you know, who knows what's going to happen, when that's going to happen, and what's going to be visually interesting. You know, as it stands right now, if this project were built tomorrow, there'd be nothing but, you know, an open field on the other side.
right.
But eventually, there will be other things of visual interest and other reasons for, you know, residents and tenants in the community to bike or walk or what have you. You know, hopefully, if we do this right, it'll just continue to evolve.
Right. So I'm thinking this is the first time that we, as a board, have reviewed also the east-west change-up of the street, the entryway, moving to the south of that eastern commercial building.
Yes,
Right.
and that was a request that came through State DOT, who was
Yep.
looking to increase the distance between the entry for this property and Sweets Corners Road to the north.
I mean, to me, this road, this east-west road, does provide a better feel that way. You know, you pull in and you have the, you know, potentially a restaurant or something on the right side, and then you have the larger buildings on the south side. And again, you know, we'll want those fronts to be kind of welcoming to people that are there.
Certainly, and I think moving the entry lane there to the south does help sort of provide a more interesting entrance to the development, because as you come into that road, you know, you do have the buildings on both sides. The building to the north will hide some of that parking. So you'll see the buildings on either side and the main street, complete street heading down, and, you know, as you're going west. So I do think that was effective as a way to hide some of the parking and provide a more visually interesting entrance. You know, the potential for that additional building is another area where you can work to hide the parking to the north, or hide the parking on the north side across from Building 2. while providing some visual interest as the road sort of meanders
Right.
around there. There is the potential in the future too, and it has been taken into consideration as part of this, that when the property to the north develops, that there may be a primary intersection with Sweets Corners Road as part of that development. And in doing this, it does set this development up for the potential that it could tie into what would be a larger
Intersection with Sweet
intersection with Sweets Corners Road, potentially signalized in the future, as that north property develops, whether that's next year, 10 years from now.
Corner. Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've got a question or maybe just something to consider. Is the property right now at maximum residential density? And I just ask that as you think about these out parcels as commercial, give some thought to, not, what happens if these are subdivided off? Will a subsequent owner come in and ask for more residential in those parcels? And so just to kind of think about that in the big picture, so we avoid what happened to the south when,
Right.
so I just,
Yeah, that's a
make
good
sure you
question.
can think
Where
about
are we
that.
at?
They, as proposed, they're at 12.8 units per acre, being fully within the Zone A mixed-use district. They're allowed up to 20 units per acre per Table 6.1.5 in the
And-
mixed-use manual.
And with what is the total, right now, the proposed commercial space, where are we percentage-wise on this? Do we know?
I believe they're at least as they're showing their non-residential, commercial and non-residential, I believe they're at,
Residential, proposed 20.
I have to calculate that, I think they're at 22.5%. That includes the daycare's playground, the office space in Building 1, the potential future commercial building and its patio area.
The daycare
And-
playground is considered part of that?
It's part of the commercial, we could consider it part of the commercial use of that because it is exclusively to be used by that commercial facility.
Is that really commercial? Is that, you consider that commercial, or is that just non-residential?
It's closer to being non-residential potentially than commercial. I guess it could be
That's
considered
5,000.
part of, an integral part of the commercial use of a daycare is the need for a playground.
Technically, daycare is institutional. It's not residential.
Right, so is there a distinction between the requirement for having a percentage that's non-residential, or is it more specific that it requires a certain percentage of commercial? I don't have that at my fingertips, but
It-
as you
Right.
consider that.
Good
I-
point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah, playground to me is kind of I don't know, that's a bit of a stretch, I think, but it's 5,000 square feet out of, what is it,
26,730.
Okay. All right. What else can we cover tonight on this?
So they did provide us with some architectural renderings, which does include callouts of the specific materials proposed to be used on the building. They do have physical samples of those materials. If the board is interested in taking a look at them, we can grab them and bring them up front here.
You guys want to see physical samples
Sure.
of?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Here, you want to bring those up?
Yeah, they want to see them.
You don't want to
You get some
walk in front of us
exercise.
with it like, Vanna White or something?
You're going to have to go up to the.
Yeah, Mary, if you want, you can introduce the materials in there, what they are from the, are you guys interested in hearing a little bit about the material choices from the applicant? Or-
So we have some vinyl siding, some cement panels.
So the,
The flat fiber cement panel is just to show what the flat panel looks like, it's not the color.
Okay,
Because the color, we just get only in wood grain sample.
okay.
So the dark color will be flat, not wood grain.
You can take your mask off while you're, if you'd like to. That way
Thank you.
we can understand what you're saying.
Okay, shall I repeat? The flat sample of fiber cement is just for the surface, for the finish, it's not for the color. The
Okay.
color sample, we could get only in wood grain. Right.
So this is the,
This will be flat, without wood grain on it.
okay, but not necessarily the color.
No, this is the right color,
Oh,
but the finish will be smooth as the other gray sample that I gave you.
so the two big ones, it'll be the color of the two big ones there, but it'll be in the soft finish of the smaller ones over there.
It's
okay,
this one.
okay, smoother, not as heavy grain.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Guys good with that?
They're showing a combination of 4 different colors of vinyl siding, 2 colors in the fiber cement board, as well as a brick veneer along the first floor and a stone veneer along portions of the first floor. The vinyl siding looks like it'll be on the higher second,
Upper
third, and
floors.
upper floors, with the fiber cement as accents along the central area of the building and the corners.
Okay. Any comments, feedback? Want to take it in? What are thoughts on that?
So most of it's gonna be this dark brick, most of the
Right.
building.
The first floor, right?
Oh, first floor.
the more robust material.
Upper floors would be this stuff.
Yeah, but, so this will be the
So
most of
first floor would
down.
be this and this.
Yeah.
Right, to look at them, you actually have to look at the whole color scheme. You have to put them all together, then they will start working together, because it's hard
Yeah.
to see how it works if you just look at the brick and the stone. If you put brick next to the stone and siding next to the stone and brick, you will see that all colors create a color scheme that works together.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the main entrance is gonna be this, where the main entrance
Yes.
is to the
On
buildings.
building
Yeah,
2.
yeah, two.
Building 1, looks like it's the brick. If the main entrance is that center.
Yeah, right. Kinda like that one. More than the dark, I think. I don't know. You know, this all across as opposed to this?
No,
No.
no, if you look at
Now,
elevation,
so if the north
stone,
elevation on the building 1 looks like
yeah,
the brick across most of it, but at the eastern portion, maybe the corner that it's on 250, that's stone.
Right.
Right.
Stone is an accent material, so it's only
Of course, I have
in specific.
expensive taste, so that's, I'm sorry.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Yeah, I got outvoted, okay, but,
So we also added stone to the facades that face the street between, the passageway between two buildings.
Okay,
It's
so
an
that's
accent.
the eastern elevation of Building 2. That's, what's that?
That's, just go back up to the top.
No, the other one.
Go back, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
this one.
That's the
Eastern
east
elevation
elevation.
of
That's the eastern
Building
elevation of
2
Building 2.
and western elevation of Building 1.
The one below, it's the west elevation of Building 1.
Nope,
Right.
she's opening that up right now, so it's,
Okay, so is that,
Yeah.
what's the
I have
material
to-
on the first floor of that?
Yeah, I have to apologize. You can see stone there, but I have to apologize. You know, the printout of this distorted the color, so it looks much more yellow than it really is,
Okay,
but it would be the same as the other building.
and those look like they're stone-clad columns?
Stone is under the balconies.
Right. Okay. This won't get VE'd out.
So far, I was able to stand up to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
The-
lot of vinyl.
I have to tell you,
There's
the
not a
attempt
ton
was there.
of
Yeah.
Stone and brick. There's a lot of vinyl. So the,
Well, it will not be weed out of the main elevations of the building. The courtyard may lose it.
okay.
Well, courtyard never had it, but anyway.
you agree?
Okay. What's that?
You like that better than that? too?
What, the stone?
Stone, yeah.
Well, I kind of like the combo. You know, the percentage of one over another, I'm not, I don't know if I have a fully formulated opinion on that at the moment. But, I mean, in many ways, I trust Mira for
can
her
work on that.
skills.
Thank you.
We don't have to order it today.
Yeah. All right, so moving in the right direction on architectural?
Yeah, I think it looks
I like it, but
pretty good.
I know we've tried to minimize vinyl in the past.
Yeah. Jim, you're our biggest critic typically. What do you say?
I don't see,
Okay, I back that I'm going to back off on that. Not, you're the, I don't know what.
it's okay. Well, I don't see any white vinyl siding, so I'm happy. No, I think it looks good. I like the contrast of colors. I think the colors are warm. I like the contrast between the brick and the stone. I'd always like to see more hard facade material, but I get that the cost is prohibitive, so, I'm fine with this.
Okay. All right, so we're, I guess, moving in the right direction on that. Anything else tonight that we need to cover on this particular application? Doug, do we have, you want to say something? Yeah. Let's make it quick
Quickly,
there,
did he say
Vars.
quickly? I think he said quickly.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. We appreciate the 45 minutes you've given us already. This is huge. And there's been a lot of good information here, and we appreciate it. I just come to ask one request, which is, working in this district is so dynamic, and I think the discussion this evening showed that. What I'd like to request is there a mechanism or a way, I'm going to use the term, can we have an old-fashioned workshop session with staff, with ourselves, Passstone, and 1, 2, whatever board members? Because tonight's conversation was very good, but I think you can appreciate it's one-sided. I think if we can get around a table and truly discuss these issues, then we can more efficiently move this forward. Because it's difficult for us to get this feedback that we got tonight. We've been chatting back there. We've got ideas spinning in our head. But the only way we can give them to you, I say only, is through a plan and a written letter. We're not able to have dialogue to maybe explain a little bit better why we did certain things, or hear and say, well, we appreciate this, but would you consider this, versus, okay, well, would you consider this, come back, wait a month, and then find out, well, could you tweak it this way?
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is for efficiency and really to be responsive to the dynamics of working in this district, is there the possibility we could consider, you know, an offline or whatever mechanism that
So
we can have?
let me just respond to that, Peter, if I may. I mean, we can tell you what we like, but it's not really the board's job to guide design. You know, we're really here to react to what the design team provides us with. And the challenges that we often have are, you know, we get something on, you know, a Friday, and then we're expected the following Thursday to have reviewed this, and we don't have an opportunity to talk amongst ourselves anymore. We wish we could be in the back of the courtroom and have more of a collaborative environment between the board members, but it's terribly difficult for us to take something that comes to us, you know, only a few short days prior, and then try to get our arms around it in this little bit of half-an-hour banter. So I'd certainly be willing to come in and meet with you and your team and you know, whomever. Certainly be happy to do that. But at the end of the day, getting something that we can review and react to, and given sufficient time to do that, to give you, you know, thoughtful comment, is, and I think what you're hearing tonight is that, you know, we don't dislike the project.
Correct.
At all, and we've gone through a number of other things that were kind of core elements of how you can use the site that you have, but now we've got these kind of critical elements for a mixed-use development, and that village feel, that Main Street feel, is kind of one of the critical things. And I think, you know, you need to paint a canvas. You've got what you need to do it. You need to direct your team to come up with some clever ways to make that, you know, kind of meet the intent of the manual, right?
Yes, and I agree with that. And I guess, but my point is well, I'll let, I've said my.
I think you both make good points, and you're kind of saying this
Right.
similar things. The short answer is, I think that we need to figure out a way to make some of that happen. If it's a collaboration with a couple of members around a table, and then, okay, here are the ideas that we all came up with, here's the plan that's based on that, and that comes before the board, where members have an opportunity to review it, and then we discuss it in.
And we
work
did,
session.
in fairness, we did do that with one of the other applicants. You know, just
So-
have a private
Okay.
charrette.
And that's
Yeah,
all we're asking.
we'll-
That's all we're asking. And I appreciate, Jim, yeah, we're not asking for, please tell us what you want, and we'll just put it on the drawings. It's not that at all. But I think it's more of the ability to have a conversation. So, you know, certain questions that we've heard tonight, we know some reasons why we did what we did and why we didn't do what we did.
Right.
You know, that I think could all just help move the conversation, just move the project forward. So no, we're not asking to have a meeting so to say, please tell us what you want, and we'll just put it on the drawings and we're done. It's not that at all. It is, we understand our responsibility as the design team. We're just trying to figure out a way, for lack of a better way to put it, that it's a two-way conversation too, because again, this was very good input that I would want to be sure we could follow up immediately with questions or comment versus, okay, what did they mean by that? This is what I think they meant, so let's do, and we think we're addressing it this way. And it's just, it can get, just don't want to waste more time. And everybody's time. You don't want to see some come back, go, they're still, boy, they missed it again. You know, and then
Right.
we go through this again. That's all.
Of course, you know, you can always go on to the town's website and view this workshop
Yes.
virtually all over again.
Yes.
It's compelling.
Yeah, it's going to go into syndication. And
No, I thank you
more
for
popular than
giving
reruns of
us.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak, though.
Sure.
We'll follow up with Doug, is what we will do. Okay?
All right.
Thank you I do appreciate it, AJ.
Sure thing. All right. What else we want to cover on this? Can we table it and move on?
If you guys are comfortable with that, that's,
Move the table?
I think we've got a lot to go on for a tabling resolution.
Yeah. Okay. Want to move
Moved
the
it.
table?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian.
Bastian, aye.
Burton.
Burton, aye.
Canower.
Canower, aye.
Tidings.
Tidings, aye.
Okay.
All right.
Hopefully, no, I'm not going to, we already said everything.
Our second tabled application, 2745 Penfield Road, Highland Estates. We are still awaiting revised plans in the architectural, or the archaeological survey. We're hopeful that we'll receive that soon, but at this time, no action is necessary on the board.
Okay. Item 3.
Item 3, the arbors at Penfield. Again, staff has sent out a PRC memo. We know they're working on revised plans. Their traffic consultant did get us a revised and updated traffic impact statement, or traffic impact study, based on the one that they originally completed back in 2018. Staff is still reviewing the recommendations of that. We have forwarded it on to the town's traffic consultant for their review. At this time, no action is necessary on the board. We're still waiting to hear back from them based on the last tabling resolution and the responses to PRC.
Okay.
So that is it for our tabled applications. We do have 2 action items. The first one is 1660 Penfield Road. That is the Delta Sonic. And Catherine will bring that here up in a second.
Sure, you can come on up and grab a chair.
Okay, so Delta Sonic approached us not too long ago about their site at 1660 Penfield Road. They're looking to do a couple of site plan modifications to keep up with their current business practices, as the subscription car wash as a service has become more significant. They're looking to remove
One of the booths.
well, they'll be removing both of the existing booths, changing one of the lanes to express only, and installing just a single booth larger than the previous one in its place on the westernmost lane for the drive-through. In addition to that, they're looking to add a camera arch system along the entry. The cameras will take pictures of damage on vehicles as they're coming in, so that the Delta Sonic has a better idea of any damage that could potentially have happened to vehicles through their car wash and what any pre-existing damage was. The site is at its green space maximum of 70%, and they would be adding a little bit of pavement with this change. So staff asked them to see if there was another area on site that they could add some potential green back onto the site. So they did show and are showing on the west side of the property, taking what was currently just a striped pavement area as a landscaped island now. We have sent this off. Staff has reviewed it. Engineering only had some minor concerns. We did send it off to the fire marshal. The fire marshal did come back and have some concerns on both sides of the property. They're taking a look at what the requirements would need to be for the arch for the camera system. As shown on the cut sheets, it's about 10 feet tall, and that can be altered. But that is, the fire marshal was concerned that it would be too low for their emergency vehicles to try to get to the back of the site if needed.
So they
Like
can't
what-
get a fire truck underneath the,
Yeah,
camera arch.
he's concerned that it would be a pretty tight fit with their current apparatuses. His concern, he said they would never likely try to take a ladder truck to the back. They would access it through the front, but they may need some other equipment that would have to go to the back. And he was concerned about the height of that system, as well as they have swing bars, maximum height swing bars, I think that are 8 feet. And potentially that those might not meet the fire chief's criteria. So he has forwarded on his concerns to the Penfield Fire Chief, as this is in the Penfield Fire District, to get their review and responses on emergency access around the site. On the west side, where they're proposing the landscape island, he was concerned that he would not, if they did get back there for an emergency, they would not be able to get back out that route. So they're, in talking with the applicant, they've agreed to move that curbed island to the other side and provide a wider area on the west side of the site. If you go to the west side.
show me where you're talking about.
You can move the Rhode Island down to there, from here down to.
Oh, okay.
that. And then for the arch, we've done them between like 10, 12, 14 feet high, pretty much whatever the fire marshal of the town says to do it at.
You can do it at.
We'll install it at, it's no issue for us whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, so I believe that my fire marshal was looking at, I think he thinks it's 13.6 is his requirement, but he's double checking that against the fire code, just to make sure that there's adequate access. For emergency vehicles, they did take a fire truck back there earlier this year or the end of last year, and they were able to do it. But he did comment that they had some concerns, and that if they're looking to redo this area, he would ask that we work to make sure that it's more accessible. Should the need for it hopefully never arise, but should it arise, that they would be able to adequately get equipment back there.
Okay. Any thoughts? You guys all know what they essentially want to do?
I was just through there 2 days ago. Have no issue with this at all. I would be comfortable with moving this forward, subject to the fire marshal's acceptance of the plan.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, no problem.
I subscribe, I go through there all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whether or not we subscribe has nothing to do with this.
I know, I'm just saying I go through there. It's a
Nothing
tight
to do with
squeeze
this.
sometimes, but I have no problem with this.
Okay, so we could potentially move it with the, subject to the final approval of the fire marshal?
Yeah, we could do that.
I guess within reason in terms of, I don't want some giant, massive structure that's sticking up over everything in Penfield.
That's not
St. Louis
that's not
Arch.
going to let that happen.
Yeah,
Understood. Yep,
So-
understood.
all right, somebody want to move it?
So moved.
Second,
Okay,
Hetzke,
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian,
Bastian, aye.
Burton,
Burton, aye.
Canower,
Canower, aye.
Tidings.
Tidings, aye.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
pretty much good to go.
Thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Thanks
everybody.
for sticking around.
And we have a second action item down at Panorama Park. I believe it's 500 Parker Hill Drive. You'll remember it as Lot 2 of the Panorama Park subdivision, Simutech. They are in talks with Ralph DeTucci to purchase a...
Bro,
Not Ralph?
no.
Not Ralph, sorry. Rich Lefroy, sorry. Lefroy, to purchase a section of property from Rich and add it into their site. So it would be a lot line shift. They would just be adding some additional acreage for future potential expandability.
So essentially a lot line shift.
Lot line shift, yep.
Any concerns, Mike, from engineering department?
The only thing we would want is there was an existing stormwater inspection easement that they've had to relocate that we'd have to have abandoned. That's about it.
Okay. Any concerns from you guys? Somebody want to move to approve?
Tidings. Make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Hetzke.
Hetzke, aye.
Bastian.
Bastian, aye.
Burton.
Burton, aye.
Canower.
Canower, aye.
Tidings.
Tidings, aye.
All right. Done.
Good job.
All right, and then one last item, in our held items, 280 Panorama Trail. Back in September, our work session in September, the board sent a letter to the applicant stating that it had been about 2.5 years since we had heard anything from the applicant, and that the board was requesting either the applicant come back in with revised plans, potentially an additional hearing, or withdraw if they didn't have any interest in moving forward. We did receive a letter from the applicant stating that they are interested in withdrawing their application from the planning board's agenda.
Okay. So that's withdrawn. Great. Anything else?
That's all I had for you guys tonight.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for your input and coming on out and your time, and we will adjourn.
So
See you in a month, or a little less.
next
Have a great Thanksgiving.
planning board hearing is your last.